Hey, welcome everybody. John here.
Hey,
Um,
John.
Hey, John.
Good morning.
okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. What will the agenda today is to go through that call one. Okay, that's the first call coming back to us from the seller. So we'll go through that, and then after that, I will be glad to look at whatever you might have question wise as far as the areas that you selected or you picked out, or any other questions that you have from what we've already previously covered. Okay. So the first thing I'll do is let me go ahead and share my screen, and we'll jump into the our case study group, and we'll go into the guides, and we'll look down to the scripts. Now, so this is the new script I just put up today for you. And so just so you're not overwhelmed, because before we're done with this whole thing, you're going to have a very long list of guides here and a lot of stuff in the guides. All right. But it's best to take them one at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And if everybody will mute your speakers. Now, the idea behind call one, and we have a two call strategy. So, the two call strategy is this: one, we want to be as efficient as possible, and we don't want to overdo it. We can't underdo something. In other words, you can't over talk to a seller, and you can't under talk to a seller. There's a happy medium. You'll all get there, but if in doubt, talk less, listen more, uh, ask questions more, and provide information less. So these are some general ideas when you're dealing with sellers. You will get talkative sellers, and I'll be putting up some example phone calls where we're looking at call number one. Then when we get to call number two, we'll go through that, and you'll see, the dynamics of call number two. But sometimes they'll be short, and sometimes they'll be long. And if they're long, it's always because the seller wants it to be long. If it's short, it's usually because the seller wants it to be short, because we have actually very little information we need to get on both of these calls. So, but I do like to engage as much as possible with a seller in order to build rapport. To me, the rapport side of it is I'm not going to say it's make or break, because I've had some deals where sellers simply just closed mouth. They didn't want to say it much. They just wanted really to get to my offer, and that's fine. We'll go with that. But when we get to call two, that's when we open up more, a little bit more, and start talking, because we certainly don't want to give away too much on call one. So we try to keep this call one really tight, just a very short, as short as possible that we can get away with. But again, a little bit of rapport building. That's usually, one or two sentences that you're volunteering. Sometimes those sentences will open it up. For example, if somebody says, I'm from here, or it comes out in the conversation that they were in some place and I've been there, I'll always say, well, yeah, I went there one time, and whatever, I lived there, whatever the deal was, and we'll just kind of break into just a little rapport building. It can also be, just a matter of asking about the weather. It can be almost anything, but I try not to go to the weather, but I try to figure out in that initial, the conversation we're going to cover, if they bring up something else, and they always do, I'm going to try to expound on that, because that's important to them. So I'm trying to figure out what is important to them. What are they trying to say to me in this call? And I'm always thinking and being very careful about what I say to them. And the reason why is everything you volunteer and say will have an effect on them, just like everything they say will have an effect on you. So not to get too deep into this, because call one is pretty cut and clear, But again, sometimes One of these calls, I think on call one, we go pretty deep into it just because the guy wanted to talk about oil wells and stuff on his property, connected to his property. And I'll let him go. I'll ask some more interesting questions. I'm trying to find out, okay, is he talking to me about oil wells? Why is he trying to talk to me about oil wells? You're always asking the question, why are they saying what they're saying? And that helps you ultimately make a better deal, make a better offer. I got off a call yesterday that came in. It was a call one, but it was actually, it ended up being a call two because of the situation of the deal. I own the property next door already, and I'm trying to expand that property. The same thing happened a couple of weeks ago. The same situation. I own the property next door, and I called and reached out to the person, and we were in automatically call two mode. So call one is always when you've sent out a mailing using our generic letter, and they're calling you, and you know next to nothing already about that property. But if you own the property next door, or you've already tied it up on a contract, then you know a lot more about the deal. And that leads to a call two automatically. All right. So when we get to the call two, you'll see how and why that works. But for right now, we'll dismiss that. Just so you know, there's two kinds of calls you will be making, call one and call two. And that's the exception of when you actually don't go into this call one. All right, so now we're going to start fresh at call one. We've sent out a mailing, and it's very generic. Hopefully, you have utilized the idea of putting that ID number, that tax ID number on the letter, again, that we've covered before at the top. But sometimes there might be a situation where you don't do that. And I've done that plenty of times. So I'm mailing out, and there's no ID at all on the letter, and so we have to get the information a little bit differently, and that's covered in call one. All right, so our goals, what is our goal really, and the goals is what information are we trying to get on this call? And that is, we need the exact lot or lots. All right, so we've got to determine that. Some people have more than one lot. Sometimes they also have a lot in another area, and they'll bring that up if you bring it up. Otherwise, a lot of times they'll be silent about it, and you never even know about it until after your deal's done and closed. Sometimes they come back. Sometimes when they do bring up additional lots, or that comes out early on, they just want to do one deal and make sure that you can deliver on this deal, and then they'll bring other lots to you. So I have got a guy who I did the deal, we closed the deal, and in the conversation, yes, it came up, and he said, yeah, I have some other properties that I would like to sell. And by the way, that happens a lot. Okay. So we do the one deal, we close it, and then they're open now to the discussion on the next deal. And so you go right into, in essence, call two with them at that point. There's really not too much of a call one, other than getting the idea of the property so you can research it. Okay. So the next thing we want is the owner on title. All right, because when we pull up a deed, that's a true owner. Whatever that deed says, that's going to be the owner on record, and you'll see that when you do a search in the county deed of records search. But it's not always the same person who is paying taxes, and this happens a lot. So this is a key question that we have to figure out on this first call, because it helps you find the property. So sometimes you can take a number, and I put the number in when I've gone back to search, and I get nothing. It doesn't come up. The one number was off. Something was wrong somewhere. And so what do you have to rely on to make that search? Well, your key components is the name that you mail to, because that's the person generally, you got that from the tax records. Obviously, that's the person who's being billed for taxes. So let's say, for example, their mother and father own the property. They passed away. They never switched the deed out. So the person you're talking to isn't on a deed. You can put their name in a deed search and you'll never find it. All right. So this is why it's so important to ask at some point who is actually on title. Then what we need to do is find out if somebody, and the other thing that often happens is their spouse is on title. And if they are, we need their name. Because sometimes you'll do a search for one spouse and you can't find it. You do the search for the other spouse and you find the deed. So these are the key components I'm going over with you right now. So if you want to make this is a good time to make some notes because it's important. Otherwise, you'll have to do 3 calls because you've got to call back and ask them some questions that you should have asked on this first call. But again, that's when they come back to you and say, well, no, I'm the only, like, for example, you say, yeah, well, we'll go into the deal. So the next thing is to build rapport. So what we're trying to do here is make that personal connection with them. So whatever happens, and I'm going to tell you, you can't predict it going in. There's just no way. And you don't even have to think about it because it will come up. It will come up at some point in the conversation where you can build a little rapport with them, talking about something either you have in common that comes out, or something that you have learned already about the subdivision in your initial research. All right. So we know something, we know a little bit about the property, and you might use a little something like that. Obviously, the longer you do this, the better you get at this, because once we get into a subdivision and we learn more and more about the subdivision, we talk to more and more sellers in that subdivision, we pick up more and more information about that subdivision, and we can bring up other dynamics that we've learned through that process. At some point, you become an expert on some of these subdivisions. So if you get a really hot subdivision, you start working it, and you're mailing like I'm going to suggest you mail constantly, basically, to them and forever, you will become like so good at understanding that subdivision. You'll know everything really by the end, almost everything there is to know about it. And at some point, you may even talk to the HOA, and they'll give you a whole nother layer. You can go to the HOA website, and that you'll get a lot more information about that. During the process of selling, you're going to pick up more information. It never stops. This is why, we come up here, we get some subdivisions, we start our mailing, we find out where we can get our teeth synced into something that's producing, and those become our specialty. That becomes your farm, if you want to see it in those terms. And you're going to grow crops, and you're going to harvest constantly off of it. I'm in the same subdivisions. It's really hard for me to break into another subdivision. It really is, because just a handful of subdivisions, I'm able to get more than enough business just in those. And then over the years, you'll keep honing down to certain subdivisions, and it's producing enough. Now, again, you can scale, and that goes outside what we're talking about here, but I'm saying you can get to the point where once you have enough, lined up, and you're producing in those areas, and you're satisfied with the numbers coming in, you can either cool it off, or you can, increase it and scale to other areas. It's up to you. Let me pull up something. So over time, I've put together the counties that I mainly work, which, again, I work in Texas. And over time, just to make it easier for me, I've created just like a link tree. There's so many different ways you can create a site, or a place where you can put your links, and that way, there's just, it's a click away. You can click in here, and it's going to take me to the deed of records for that county. So these are the counties. These are the counties that I've worked. I don't work Navarro County anymore. I don't really work Valencia anymore, and I don't work Galveston anymore. But these are, over time, I've determined, okay, Burleson, Bastrop, which is outside of Austin, El Paso, Liberty County, and Montgomery County. These 2 counties are side by side to me locally, and then these others are a little bit further out. But look, 7 years flipping properties, and I've never had to go really past these. and I did quite a few in these other counties. I made money in those counties, but I made enough money in these few counties that I just stopped mailing to the other counties. And I focus more on just mailing to these counties. I know these counties like the back of my hand now. I know how they operate. I know how to, I just know so much about the counties. So you get spoiled after a while too. So you can grow, but create these links. And then other things you'll do just to speed up the process is I'll put in the mailing address. So when I do send my deed in, et cetera, it's done that way. So basically I'm grabbing the deed of records, the tax office, the GIS map. And I used to have to do the floodplain before MapRight. The MapRight has it in there. Sometimes different tax offices, and you'll find this just by going through your first deal. Sometimes the tax office doesn't collect tax for the school district, so which is weird, right? The only county I've seen that happen in that I work is Liberty County. So I have to look at the different school taxes in order to get the full tax amount. So the county tax is not the only tax that I have to look at for this county. And so this is some of the reasons why the more you learn about a county, then you'll learn all these little things that will trip you up when you first start up, and maybe, there's more money I have to pay. But once you learn it, then you can solve the issue. Okay. And then what we're going to do is inform them that we're going to research and get back with an offer. So we're never making an offer on the first call. Now, will you? The answer is yes. Sometimes that's actually going to happen. You're going to find somebody so motivated that you're going to just cut the deal right there. And that's only if they're basically ready just to part with it for next to nothing. I mean, they might just tell you on this first call, hey, you know what? I don't even care about this law. I'm just trying to get it out of my hair, basically. I don't even want anything for it. If you'll take it, I'll give it to you. Now, that conversation happens a lot, not to the degree that, it's a full-time business for you, but it happens enough every year, and you will pick up some free lots. I do it all the time. And, but you've got to be listening. You've got to be on this first call. You're listening to the motivation level, and you're trying to figure that out. And sometimes it comes out when you're about to get off the call with them, and they haven't gotten a solution. In other words, they don't know right now. They can't count on you calling them back. They don't know for sure that you're going to call them back. And they're just so motivated to get rid of it, they'll bring it up, usually right there at the end of the call. So this is why you keep to the script, and you'll see it will pop when it does, and you'll pick up a half acre for free. You'll pick up a couple acres for free. Recently I picked up 7 acres for free off of a deal like that. So you never know. All right, so let's get into the script. So they're calling back, and I'm saying, I'll just answer the phone however I answer. I don't try to answer as a business. I always say, John, this is John, or this is John Alexander, is typically how I answer my phone. And then they'll go right into, the connection to you. I got a letter, and I'm giving you a call back. And then right away, you want to find out who you're talking to, and then make the connection between that person and the name of the letter that you mailed out. But right now, we just need their name. All right. So when they give it to you, make sure you get a pen and paper so you can write notes down. The notes are important as you go through here, both on call 1 and call 2. Okay, I got it. Now this is a silly question. It sounds like, are you wanting to sell your lot? That's one of the first questions you need to ask. And it's a psychological question more than anything else. We know they wouldn't be calling you if they didn't want to sell their lot, but not necessarily. When might not that be the case? Anybody? When would they be calling you and they really don't want to sell their lot, but they're still calling you?
When they're angry.
They want you to get them off their list.
Yeah. They don't like the letter or something like that.
Yep, they will do that. Now, and thank God
Mites
that
tend to
doesn't
say
happen
F
very
off.
much. But what else might they be calling that's actually important to us?
Yeah, they might be just calling to find out what it's worth.
Yeah, exactly. They're just calling to find out what it's worth. And that's your biggest issue in this business of people who will waste your time, which is another reason why we cut this first call pretty short, because we'll find out sometimes on this, if that's the case on this first call, and certainly if they don't take your call on call two, that means that's what it was. They were just pricing it out. There'll be some rare exceptions I found when somebody's trying to get an offer from you because they're working an offer with somebody else and they're smart enough. They've been around a while and they're smart enough to know that they could use one offer against another offer. So if you come in and you make whatever the offer is, even if it's a little higher, they still won't go with you because they've already gotten too far with the other person. And they might dream about it, but they'll keep on that one. They'll take your offer and then tell the other person, oh, I've got an offer higher than you. Will you meet it? And, so it's a rare, but that does happen sometimes. Sometimes they'll try that as a lie against you. All right. So they'll say, well, everybody's mailing me right now. And, I'm talking to somebody else. And that's all just to get you to give them your best price. And that means nothing. Whenever somebody tells me that, I know they don't have a deal at that point. They have nobody really giving them any solid offer. They might have written them a letter, but for whatever reason, they decided to call you, or they already went through this with somebody else and that person flaked out on them because they didn't do the follow-ups. They didn't know really how to handle the business. So you can ignore some of that. So remember, sellers are liars. That's always been the case. Day one, sellers are liars. The other person who's a liar, just on a side note, buyers. Buyers are liars, which is a famous saying, but sellers are definitely liars too. So, but it's negotiation. That's all it is, negotiation. All right. So when we ask them this question, are you wanting to sell your lot? It starts to pose to them, hey, yeah, I do. I actually do want to sell this lot. Whereas before they're calling you back, hoping in a way they're saying, well, I'm going to call this person back and see what they offer. Maybe I'll sell if the offer is right. I mean, that's how they approach the sell. That's how everybody approaches the letter. But they haven't decided to sell yet. So what we're trying to do with this question is to a little mind disruption. The disruption is that, hey, you know what? I really do want to sell this. And now let me get more serious about it. That's what this question does. It's a powerful question if you use it. Now, do you have a letter there with you that I mailed you? And they'll say yes or no. All right. If they don't, all right, even though you printed that property ID number on there, that property ID is gone, useless to us at this point. So now we're going to have to rely on getting their name, and the county. So write that down. We need the name. We're going to end up asking them the name that's on the letter that we mailed to, because we can always go back in our records, search it, and figure it out what lot it is. But we also need to know the county, because even though you may mail to one county and you're thinking and maybe you didn't go too far, maybe you're violating what I'm telling you on the 3 different areas around the state. If they call back and they don't, they could be from any county, then you'll never find them based upon their name by itself. But if you can tie a name and a county together, then you're good to go. You should be able to find them, because that's who you mail to from the tax records. Okay, so that's the out there. But usually they'll give you the number, because a lot of times they're calling you because they've got the number, they've got the letter in front of them, and they're calling the number on the letter. Therefore, they have the letter. So just assume they have the letter and get that tax number. And then it's a good idea to repeat the number back to them, because if they're one number off, you're back to square one. It does help that you've got, a large piece of the number, but this makes for extra work. So repeat the number back to them, and then move on. Then we got to find out what they're selling. Okay, so is this just the one lot that you're selling, or do you have others here? And that will then solve that question. And then if they have others, ask them, are you wanting to sell the other lots as well? You've got to ask the question, because again, that's where that conversation may come up that we mentioned earlier. Well, I have some other lots, but let's do this first. I just want to sell this one, and then we'll look at the others. And then at some point, I'm trying to drill down now and get to some hot points, hot buttons. What is the motivating factor, the true motivating factor? Why are they dealing with it now, not 6 months ago, not 3 years ago, et cetera? All right. So the next piece is, can you tell me about the situation with a lot? Now, that's a very general question. I've used this question almost since actually it goes all the way back to the 1990s. It is one of the best questions you can ever ask somebody to start getting them to talk. It's an odd question. Again, don't think about it. Don't think about, you shouldn't say it or you shouldn't ask about it. Just say it and then watch what happens. All right. Sometimes this is where they start to go off they're going to go off in a very important direction. The direction they're going to go to with the answer to this question is what is really important to them about selling this lot. So you want to really listen closely. You got your notes. This is where you really want to take notes as well, is these hot buttons, whatever they bring up. They also may say, well, nothing, don't really, just ready to sell it because, and then they'll go into the because. Okay. So if you're quiet at this time, you don't really volunteer any information, you ask them this question, you really have to kind of shut up and just stay silent. If they say nothing, stay silent. Just like that. And they'll start talking. And then you're taking notes again. So whatever the answer, let them talk. They're not talk. If they say nothing, then let them talk again. You say nothing, let them talk. Any issues that I should know about. Now, one of the things you've got to figure out you want to do here is, if you ask this question and they say nothing, and then there's nothing else that comes up, then you can bring this question in. All right. Is there any issues or things I should know about the lot? And then let them go, because again, you'll learn more information. It might help you. It might not. It might be generic information, but every time they talk, really you're going to be able to use that information, even if it doesn't sound like you are. So again, this is where you want to take notes for sure. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll pull up the county records on the lot, and then I'll put an offer together for you. I should be able to call you back tomorrow if that works for you. Sometimes they won't take the call. They have to, they got things to do, or they'll tell you when to call them back. I love the idea of the calendar close. The calendar close is something that should become your best friend. And that is, if you can get somebody to agree to a particular time with you, you've got a solid opportunity there. That's telling you that they are, one, serious, but it's also setting up for a little guilt on their part if they don't show up, or if they can't talk to you at that point. And so it locks in this time factor. Now at this point, they think, and you feel the conversation is kind of over, but we need to drill down a little bit more, because now that we've told them, oh, we're going to research it and call you back. Now we're asking them a research type of question. And so, by the way, is your name on the title, or is it under somebody else's name? And that's where we come up and figure out who's on title versus who's on the tax roll. And they might say whatever it is. They might say, if they say, oh, it's my name, no, I'm on the title, it's my property, The next question I'm going to ask, is there anybody else named on the title besides you? Because if it's a wife, it's a wife. And now when we're trying to search a property and then we put his name in there, it doesn't come up because the county indexed it under the wife's name and not his name, because that happens a lot. Then we can still find the deal. We also know that there's another party involved that has to be signing off on everything. And then what is the relationship? You know, sometimes it's a brother, sometimes it's a deceased brother, sometimes it's a deceased wife or husband, whatever the case may be. We want to then find out and make sure that they are still alive. I don't ask people, well, are they dead or are they alive? Bad question. I will ask, are they able to sign? That's my question, to figure out if they're dead or alive. Because they might not be able to sign because they're out of the country, they're working, they're divorced, a million things. So that's a question that will catch everything. I should actually type that in here. So, okay. Now, whenever I upgrade these and update these things, which I do constantly, when I update this, it will always be updated on the copy you look at. So from time to time, it's a good idea to go back in and look at contracts, because I'm constantly updating or twisting or turning, making differences, and same with the scripts. My wife, and let me get her name. So then you can spell whatever name that they are giving you. Believe me, there's 100 ways to spell every name out there, and especially today, not back when I was a kid, when everybody was, had a simple name with one spelling. Mary was spelled one way. Susie was spelled one way. So these are just, just make sure you get the spellings right, even on their name. So, repeat back the spelling on their name, because that spelling will trip you up when you go to searching for an indexed name on the search. And by the way, just a side note, when we do look up property, and I had one of our people who previously went through this case study with me on the first one. He came back to me. He searched the deed of records and could not find the person listed. I looked it up and I found them right away. And he was thinking, well, there wasn't any deed recorded. There must have been, or there's some issue or something like that. But it was just simply because he couldn't find it based upon the spelling of the name. So some of the tricks to use when you're doing a search, and I'll put this in here now because it's kind of on the same subject. Because we're getting, we're talking about what the information we're getting here. So you can search by last name, and typically these deed records and tax records, they're done by last name, first name. And then sometimes they have the middle initial, and that comes as a third point of information. But another way you can do it, if you're trying to find somebody, is you put in the last name and then first letter of the name. Sometimes you can just put in the first few letters of the name, but I usually just, if I can't find them on last and first, I'll put in the last name. Also, but first I'll find out if there's, if they gave me if there's a middle initial on the tax record, I'm using that as well. So I'm going to do last, first, middle, because that'll bring me right to the person. John Alexander will bring me to every John Alexander, but if it was John F. Alexander, it's only going to bring up John Alexander with that middle initial F. All right, so so what we can do here is, if we do the last, first, middle, then we drop the middle and do a research. All right, so then we're starting to condense down the names that we're searching for. But still giving us enough to go through and try to find this person. And we're looking, basically, when we do a search for somebody like that, we're doing a search so that we are looking for the name and the name of the subdivision. Generally, that's what we're looking for. So they're in ABC subdivision. Their name is John Smith. all the John Smiths are there, and I have to go down through all of them like I did with him. I went through almost 200 looking for the last. I couldn't even get it off there was no first letter. So the last thing I did was I just put in last name only, and then I had to look for the subdivision. Now I'm not putting in the subdivision. I'm just looking for it. I'm pulling up everybody with that last name. If you do Alexander, you'll be there all day. This probably won't work for you, but if it's a little bit of a different name, it will work for you. So I'm looking for last name only, and then I'm just comparing it on that list to figure out where they might be. Let's jump over to Montgomery County. So I'm going to log into the database there for the county records. I'll put in John Alexander. So you're going to get a bunch of deals, because there's a bunch of John Alexanders. So what you're having to do then is you're just looking over here and trying to figure out, which John Alexander matches, that particular Peach Creek, for example. So this is how I'm trying to pull out all the other John Alexanders from the one John Alexander that I'm looking for that is on, that matches to that, particular subdivision.
John, one question.
Yes.
I've noticed you don't ask for the address on your script.
No, only because of the idea behind if they're giving me their name, I've got their address because I mailed to it. Nothing stops you from doing that, but if they give you the name, you have a list and you can just go back to that list and match their name. But you're specifically asking, what did I mail to?
Okay. Trying to pull up from your own records, basically.
Right. Okay. I'm trying to find another John Alexander.
Worst case scenario, if you can't correlate or find, you could ask them to send you a snapshot of the tax appraisal letter that they got or something like that.
Yeah, you can ask them, do you have your tax record there, and get it from them that way as well. Okay. Okay. Well, almost all of these are me, actually. Almost all of these are me. I'm sure there's a couple in here that aren't me, but that would be, here's one that would not be me. So Alexander and Johnson. So you'll see it kind of come up this way. Not that it helps because there's no deal there, but this is what you're looking for if you've got such a generic name and you're just trying to figure out, let me match that to whatever. Okay. Go back here to the bottom. Okay, and then the other thing that you can do is if you cannot find them based upon everything you have gathered in this initial information, the next thing you want to do is go through and back when you do a search, instead of searching the name, but you know the subdivision, you've been talking about it, right, with the person. You could look over here on search types and they all have this kind of version where you can do a search on something besides names. So we might go to the legal description. That's usually what I go to. Okay, so I'll pull up the legal description. I'll put the name of the subdivision in here, Holiday Oaks. And then we have to baby step into this sometimes. I start out with whatever I can. If I know the section and I know the block, I'll do that. And I'll pretty much stop at that because I want to see everything they have in this block as far as the ownership goes. All right, so we can do the search the records. And so this is giving me everything in block 5. And over here it says S1, that's section 1. Section 1. All of these are section 1. But you don't have a section over here. Just so you know, when you start to read it, start to read how your county deed sets up their indexing, and you can start put something in that you know. You've got the full legal address on one just as a sample for that county. Go in there and put that address in. You've got the county, look it up, and then see how they lay out their information. They usually are very consistent about it. And so, so now let's say I can't find the person I'm looking for because I'm lost, but I know that it's, I know that it's, in Holiday Oaks and I, when I looked up the guy on the tax record, the person we were talking, let me set this up correctly. The person we're talking to is John Alexander. But when I went to search John Alexander for this property, there was no record. I couldn't find anything there. So how do we find this deed that seems to be missing, but really isn't? Generally, it should be in here somewhere if there's a deed there. We do it this way. We forget the name and we find out, well, who owns this particular lot that we mailed to and that we're talking to this person on. We know it's not that person that owns it because they're not in here. Okay. And maybe they said, yeah, I own it, but they were saying to you in a way, I own it because my mother or my father, or let's say my mother died and left it to me. All right. And so there's no connection here on the deed. So it's just now it's still in her name. And so we never got that name, which is again why we ask these questions. But you can still find it if you can reverse engineer this thing. So now we're just looking for that lot and that block number and the lot, and then we can find out who owns that, and kind of go from there. So once we do that, then we can go ahead and click on the deed. Let's say it's this one right here. And then we're just going to verify by looking at the legal description on the deed to make sure it's matching, the person that we mailed to. And so we'll come down here to find the legal wherever that might be. If it's not on the first page, we go to the next page. Sometimes the legal's on that first page. It's right here. This is Holiday Oaks, Section 1, Block 5, Lot 10. And so now we know that we're talking, now we know who owns it. So now when we call that person back for call 2, we have information that we're now going to start talking about. Well, how is Charles Pritchard Jr. related to you? And then let them tell you on that call what the deal is. Now, the rest of the story might come out will come out at that time, but that's because we were able to find the deed. So the whole idea behind call 1 is to get all this basic information of who owns it, on title. We go to the tax records, and then we're also going to look up the tax, if they have any back taxes due on it. Now, when we go to a tax deal, let me go back. Well, I can't. I already bought the deal from him. So he's no longer in the tax records. Let's say, And let's just pull one up. So when you go to your tax record, generally they're going to show what the tax levy is due in some form or fashion. By the way, this company right here has a lot of taxes uses. So a lot of times you'll be dealing with the same one, or you will deal with something very similar to this. Now, with this one, you can go into payment information and receipts and get a history of who made the payments and when, and they will literally list them. Usually if they've stopped making payments, they will now list every payment that hasn't been made. And so you can see when they stop making payments, and you can get a little bit more information that way about your property. But it's going to show your total amount due. These are prior year taxes due. So any prior years, they're going to add it up and put it into here. And then you're going to have a current tax, statement of total right here. Down here, you can also see who made that last tax payment or the previous tax payment. Sometimes that helps you as well. Just kind of determine, okay, well, they say they own it. It does show them paying the taxes here. Their name will be there. And still, this is not owned by this person. Again, because the tax records and the deed of records, they're not always connected. They're supposed to be, but they're, once somebody passes away, that connection is broken. And now whoever's responsible for making tax payments will be here, and their name will be up here. And sometimes it'll be, Greg Smith for the estate of Betty Smith. All right. So that's her mother. His mother. So this is just kind of extra information for you to know when you're dealing and looking up information and trying to determine who it is that we are going to put our deal together with. Because ultimately, we're going to, if we can get them agreed to a price on call 2, we're going to send them a contract. And what we want is the proper names if possible. Believe it or not, sometimes you'll do it without the proper names. But we're trying to use a proper name. So somebody passed away. They're saying they're the owner, but they still haven't done any probate. There's no affidavit of heirship. There's nothing. They're just telling you, this is my property. I own it. And that was my parents' property who died and left it to me. That's fine. We can put a contract together now with that person. We're not even going to mention the names of the parents. We're going into a contract with that person because they're saying, we have to take it at face value at this point, that they are the owners. So our contract basically just stops with this person that we're talking to. But if indeed they're saying, well, my father passed, so yes, I own it, but my mother's still alive. Well, we need the mother signature on this contract as well. This is why, getting this information, it all comes out right here in this portion of it. It's all going to come out right here if you ask the right questions and why these questions are so important. Otherwise, you will, first of all, not look as professional when you've got to call back and start, trying to figure it out. I can't even find anything on the property. Well, you're the one that mailed me. Why can't you find something? Why are you so lost? And why didn't we discuss this on the first call? Now you're wasting my time. So this is why these are key questions, and that's the walk away, keeping in mind that these are what we're trying to do on this one. We're not trying to buy the property at this point. We may not even want it. All right. It may be a dud. Okay. And there will be duds that you're going to talk to. Fortunately, not that many, but there are some duds. And so, the reality is, and the other thing is there'll be some deals, and the duds meaning there'll be some deals that they're so messed up. They're so convoluted, so screwed up, there's nothing we can do, or we don't come to a price that matches, whatever the reason is. But again, if we have this amount, we can put our best foot forward. We can put our best offer together and get it to them. All right. So let's go ahead and open it up for your questions. If you have any questions about what we covered today.
I really like the way you approach. I was trying to understand why 2 calls, basically because we are buying virtually. So you do need a second call, maybe even a third call to get all the offer and all the paperwork ready. My mind was like, just one call and go for the appointment, but hey, hello, this is not the case. So I like that.
Yeah, look, and quite frankly, even if you're local, you will try not to do appointments because it can become a waste of time until you have a contract written up. It's now with the buyer, it's different. Actually, I want to, as soon as I can possibly get to a contract or if they're local, the closer you can get to a meeting with that buyer, the better. That's the person you really that would be really good to have a meeting with, but not the seller. I've never met a seller since I've been doing this for 7 years ahead of getting a contract done, even when they're local. I just won't do it. We're calling, I do call 1, I do call 2, then we know we have a deal because now I'm about to send over the contract, mail the contract over after call 2. And yes, will there be more calls? Yeah, well, yeah, because there'll be other follow-up calls, but your deal's done in 2 calls is what we're really saying by call 1 and call 2. Arranging a closing, arranging all that. Those are all extra calls. And yes, they come, but they're not the important calls that get the deal locked up. So you're making money. That's after you've basically earned your money. When you got that contract signed, now you've got a deal and you've got money on the way just by writing the deal out. Any other questions? Okay, now does anybody have anything they want me to take a look at? And by the way, before I do that, and you can think about that if you want me to look at some area. Because here's the thing: don't ever worry about other people working in your areas. Whenever an area comes up on here, you already know that it's being worked by somebody with a letter similar to yours. Is not the best place to go mailing right behind somebody like that. So it doesn't really come up as an issue. So let me know if you want to do that. Now, there were some other questions here I wanted to address from a person that sent me some questions. I thought these questions were so good that I thought everybody could benefit, and it would save me a lot of writing at the same time, not to mention, but they are really great questions. So in the letter that you download from me, right, that you're sending out, there'll be some things in there. So the question is, the letter says I'm a local real estate investor, but I'm not local to that area. So you're doing virtual flips, and so you leave that in or out. Either way, it doesn't make any difference. The people will not. I like to leave it in there because even when I'm doing virtual stuff, I like to make them feel like I'm there on that initial letter. It doesn't. Again, it's not going to kill your deal because you can say, "Well, I'll send that out." But it's never going to come up. The question will never come up. All right. So I've been doing it for years. That's never come up, but it makes them feel good that you're local. And again, most of them will not even remember that. They'll just read it, and subconsciously it sets in there that they want to continue talking to you.
You are local in a way. You're buying the area.
Yeah, you're buying. And local to me is Texas. The letter says no survey. How do we buy time to find the end buyer if we're waiving the survey? Well, we're just saying there. In essence, we're saying they don't have to, provide a survey, or they don't have to pay for a survey. So if that question comes up, and by the way, again, 7 years doing a ton of properties, that's never come up, but that's how you would answer it. You say, well, I'm buying the survey. If one needs to be purchased, I'm taking care of it. But sometimes that's not always the case, Mr. Seller, because a buyer coming in usually will ask you if you have a survey, and if you don't, they expect for you to buy one. And so that's a good way to come back, letting them know we're better than anybody else by that. Letter says we are one of the largest buyers in the county. Okay, well then that one you should leave out unless you become one of the largest buyers in the county, which means now you're in there and you're buying up, some property. Even buying 4 or 5 properties can start to make you one of the biggest buyers of properties. Not that many people sometimes, are giant buyers of property. And if they are, you're one of them. All you're saying here is you're one of the largest buyers in the property of the county. But again, never had that question come back. And one of the great things about these questions that are coming in, and why I'm answering them too, is because we can overanalyze things, and we can analyze it so far that we stop doing what we need to be doing. So you'll be surprised at how little these people just want to know, how much are you going to offer me for my property? That's what they want to know. Really, at the end of the day, that's what they want to know. They don't care what you said in the letter. They know you're in business. They know you're doing this. You're going to say what you need to say in the letter to get them called. People know that. Letter says, should I be signing as an individual or company? Because it says we in there. Well, I use we just like the king says, we do this and we do that. In my case, though, it's me and my wife. So it's we because, like all good marriages, the wife has to approve of everything. It also gives you an out there, but primarily the way that we use this and why we do a living trust, by the time we get to, into call two, and actually not even to call two, but by the time they get the contract, now they're going to start to see what it is our setup is. And we have a living trust, or not we, but we are the trustee of a trust. They don't even know if it's a living trust. They just, because there's business trusts or businesses who operate under a trust. In Texas, there's a ton of trusts that operate oil wells, for example. So there's a trustee. The trustee's job is to do all this front work, running around, making some decisions about the business and everything. For the true owner, which is sitting back, smoking cigars, relaxing out by their pool, and they want to know nothing about the business. They just want to count their money when it comes in. So that's the idea I want to put in your head about the trust setup and where your position is. You're the worker bee for that trust, and that trustor who owns the trust. Let's just, for the sake of argument here, that's the owner of the trust, and you're just an employee. So you have to run everything by the boss anyway to get approval. But you have that's your job. So it sets this up as we, because you still have to get an approval for somebody. What phone number to use? Is it safe to use a Google Voice number given that there's chances of getting a call back after a year? Yeah, there are big chances of getting a call back after years. I got a call the other day. I put the deal together. In fact, I think I showed you this guy. Anyway, that one came in after 3 years. That was from a letter I sent out 3 years ago. So, yeah, use a phone that you want to keep around for a while. And that's again why, when if you're going to, whatever phone number you pick up, just have in mind that you're going to keep it for a while. Is it life and death? No, because most deals come within the first, 2 or 3 weeks. And you occasionally get one after that. After the first couple of weeks, you'll still get a call or two after that, maybe the following week or two. And then it pretty much dies off. That's it. You'll still get occasionally one maybe call, maybe a month or two, or two, 1 or 2 calls in that following. But that's like in the best case scenario. So most of it will die off, that quick. So how many letters should I be sending a week? And this is totally up to you, but my suggestion is you should be sending at least, to start out with, a good idea, as I kind of set up your journey here, is to get 3 areas, send 100 to each area. And then after that, you're picking new areas. All right. We're not resending those right away. That'll come 3 months later. We'll send those first 300 back another letter. But you want to move on to expand your area. But first, look, the 3 lists that you pulled, there's going to be plenty more on there that you need to send to. And as you figure out which ones you're getting the best response to, start there. Let's say you get 3 responses in one area, you get 1 response in another area, and 0 response in the third area. Well, that tells you how you want to start layering this. You want to go ahead and put all your emphasis on the area that you're getting the biggest response from. And then again, I would still, since you're getting response from the next area, go ahead and continue in that area. And then you probably, instead of pursuing that third area, just switch areas for that third one, go find another one to mail next time. And that's how you can kind of proceed.
John, one question on that matter.
Yes.
300 letters a week. So 100.
No,
is that what it said?
no, 300 on your first mailing. And then
Okay.
after that, what you want to do is go to 100 per week in general, 100 per week. So you've determined out of the 3 areas, number 2 is your best area. So next week, go back to that list, get the rest of them, because you hopefully you have more than 100 that you pull from. And so once you pull that, then you can do 100 and just keep doing that.
$100 a week.
Right. And you'll start to make decisions on your response from the first. What you're going to learn in the first month of this business, or 2 months in this business, is going to start telling you, well, I mailed to this subdivision. This is what the subdivision looks like. This is what it feels like. This is what it looks from a Google map standpoint. This is where it's at in relationship to a major metropolitan. What relationship is to a lake, for example, or a river. All these little things you're going to learn, and you're going to say, oh, okay, I'm getting great responses like this from this setup. And so maybe I should start looking for new areas that kind of match this idea that you've come up with. And the great thing about that is everybody's going to come up with a different combination and different response. But you can go out there now and specifically start to figure out how to search for those duplicate areas. For the first few years, I only mailed to mobile home parks, or not parks, but mobile home land where mobile homes were allowed. And it took a while before I started mailing to properties where people were having to build. But what happened is when I was selling to the people with mobile homes, they were telling me about, do you have anything where I can build a home on? And I kept getting that question. And so I said, well, there's obviously a market for that too. And then I added that to it. The opportunities are so vast, you'll never get to the end of it, and you'll never run out of properties, because what you're learning, you're able to then dial in and make your own. Everybody else misses it. You're going to, be able to take advantage of it. Any other questions? Okay. And nobody wants me to test their market, but here's another way you can do it. If you want me to check your area, if you'll do a Loom video, LOOM.com, it allows free access to screenshot in a video format. You can talk while you video whatever you're looking at. So you can pull up Zillow and show me your work, basically, how you determine I'm going to go for this area and everything. I'd be glad to give you whatever comments or feedback.
John, I have one question regarding that. I found an area, and for some reason, I'm kind of drawing towards lake and river, maybe because I have 2 houses right now I'm selling on similar areas. But I found this area, and there are like 12 lots being sold, same value, like 27,000, and listed by the same person, same realtor. It might be one of your students. I don't know, but
Probably not.
Yeah, but I got scared to work on that area.
Yeah, I would be too. That sounds like just somebody who previously bought, as an investment purposes, bought a bunch of lots, and now they're scrambling for money instead of selling them one at a time, which is what they should be doing, or 2 at a time at most. They're dumping them. So one, that might be under normal circumstances, that could be if you're a long-term investor, that could be a great deal, but not for us. We're flipping. So obviously the real issue that you're asking about, now you're competing against all of those. Should you do it? Well, the answer is yes, if you can underprice them, but that's what you're competing against in that area. And so if you can buy under that, then yeah, you can slide in there with one deal, and should be a fairly easy sell for you.
Okay. And then you mentioned on the recorded week one, the third video, the second video, I believe, where you explain the rings. So you have the main metropolitan area and you like to go around those counties.
Right.
I know you know DFW and the competition here is so fierce. And what exactly for DFW would be that ring? Because I can see Dallas, I can see Calling, I can,
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
still the big
Yeah.
area, right?
Yeah. Well, you might have to go out to a second ring in the DFW area, a second layered ring. You know, for the growth in the growth side of it, which I believe is north, because I remember when I lived in Dallas, you know, at that time.
You know, South is growing too. It's amazing.
Oh, is it going south too? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so whatever the directions are, you know, you want to get out in front of that direction.
All right.
And stay in those directions though. Wherever that growth path is, you can make money in those areas. We're looking for demand. We're looking for people saying, okay, they're building over here and I want to, you know, we want to move. We want property that we want to buy long term, short term, whatever it is. But that's where they're going to go look first.
John,
Okay.
is this only a numbers game, or is there a way to avoid or to have less competition?
Well, you know, look, the competition is really the biggest competition for us in the land business right now are in the actual subdivisions themselves, where we have a lot of builders building. And what I'm finding now, and that's you know, in certain areas. So when you find an area like that, okay, then what you want to do is really be mailing to the next right outside that area, wherever it's at. So, for example, in Austin, they were building really heavy, and everybody's mailing to Austin right now, and it's so hard, even in the land side, to get anything. But you still can, only because of that principle that we talked about, that when somebody decides to sell, they're going to sell, and they'll throw all those letters away they're getting until that day that they decide to sell, and your letter arrives, and you're the one they're calling. Okay, so you have that as your advantage. I hate to have that as my only advantage. All right, so, but instead of doing Austin, I'm looking outside of Austin, and then I'm seeing where the builders are just now starting to branch out to, and that would be the ideal place to go to. I'll give you an example. I was buying some stuff in Bastrop, as you saw on my list, and in Bastrop, there was no builders in this area called Tahitian Village. No, there was no builders there, and I was able to get deals back then for next to nothing. Sometimes I had free lots coming to me from there. Just people sick of paying all their taxes and stuff that they have there, HOA fees and stuff. And then suddenly they started building in there over a 1 year period. It took a while. All right. 1 year period though, the builders started saying, hey, we built up everything else and the prices are too high. Where can we get cheaper land at? So this is what the builders are doing. They're looking further out from where they've already inundated it. So that's why I'm saying, look away from where they're building now. So now, I mean, it's still viable in that area, but now you've got everybody mailing there. Because I still, for some reason, they have me as an owner of a property there I sold. They didn't get the deed correctly filed. So what happens is I'm getting all the letters from investors that, you know, that are looking for land. And just in the last few weeks, it's a stack that high. So I'm still mailing there, but I'm not mailing in that area. I've already said, forget that area. I'm moving out even further. So I just went to the next area out. So I've got a deal I'm working on right now, and I'm going to post the conversation I had with a realtor to give you an idea of what that looks like and what that's going to sound like. But, you know, I'm trying to figure out, well, where are the pricing right now on this new area I'm looking at? And what are the sales like? How fast are they going? And you can get a lot of that. You know, we start with Zillow, and then we if we have to, in Austin, you kind of have to do this, but in other areas, you may not. But again, in Dallas, you may have to do it as well. So you're going to the next area out where you don't have very many cells, but you have something. You do have one or two maybe in that area. That's going to be probably the next place they all move to. And so you want to get in there now while you can still get a great deal, but flip it at tomorrow's prices, because builders are already buying outside the area, not building there yet, but they're buying. So you won't see that on Zillow because they haven't built there. So again, this is the information you ultimately get from a realtor in a place like this. And so it definitely helps to just keep, wherever they're actively building now, you can see that on Zillow they're building. What else is, past that in the same path direction, and start buying there. So in that area, by the way, I found out the lots, I can get them for around 3,000 right now, because that's a tax value. But that's for 1 and 2. So you have to pair them up. So basically 6,000 will be the purchase price, but they're going for $35,000. And that particular one is a builder / or mobile home. So, you can learn a lot from talking to a realtor about that, and you'll hear how I do that. I don't own anything, I don't own anything in that one. I'm just doing my initial research, but, I want to find out even before I mail this one, because I'm trying to figure out which subdivisions to mail to. And there's another one nearby, so I'm going to mail to that one too, there. And both of them one's called Beaver, I think it's Beaver Creek, and the other one's Indian Lakes. And I've mailed to Indian Lakes once, and I picked up a deal already, and I'm trying to pick up the property next door, so I have enough. It's a little complicated area to do. It's a little advanced area to do, but we'll talk about that when the time comes to it. But yeah, that's all you're trying to do. Just one more app. Any other questions?
I have another question. I've noticed that you do not, or maybe I haven't seen it, you don't search before you mail them. Do you search first years of ownership? Make sure the owner have not just bought the lot, and if the lot is listed. Do you check those things?
No, I don't. But by default, we're going to see that they didn't buy it recently in the map right sort. So if you remember when we sorted the map, there was a section there called sales date. Last sales date is what it's talking about. So sales date. So you look at that, and I just eliminate anything recently sold.
Okay.
Past 5 or 6 years for sure.
Okay.
And if your list is really big, what you're going to do is go down to where they're blank. Now, if on the sales date column they're blank, it means that those last sales were done prior to them actually listing the sales date as part of their tax information that they provide. So that goes back even further. So if they're blank, I'm certainly mailing to those first.
Okay.
And it helps you squash the list down to, who you should be mailing to. You can squish a list down to the best by eliminating all the dates that you see. Now you're dealing with blanks, if you can, and then eliminating anybody, even with if you want a really tight list. If 2 or more properties, if they own 2 lots, I don't want to talk to them unless they're tiny lots. But if they're regular sized lots, quarter acre or more in Texas, for example, or I'm going to mail to them, and or by eliminating multiple lots, you get to somebody who's more likely to sell to you, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So John, I'm mailing in California, right? So in California, if you look at the 2020 builds, the new builds are very few. But if you look at lot sales in in the last 12 months, they're a lot, right? Like people buy land for recreational use, or they just buy it and hold it forever.
Yeah.
To build sometime later, right? So should we if I focus just on places where the land is cheap and also that building there are very few spots in California. Like how do we go about this?
Well, are they being sold on the MLS?
Yeah, they are.
They are? Okay, well, then that's good. It's a good place. Yeah, we use the building only when, it's appropriate, which is for most places, building. But yeah, if it's a recreational area or if it's acreage, you can't go by builders at all in those areas. That's out the window for sure. But as long as you have activity there, people are buying, then it should be a good area. You just want some demand, right? You want some demand.
Right. I mean, there is huge demand for sure.
Good. Should be a good area. Again, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. It'll spread out, And if I were you, I would not even just stick with California, but I'd maybe pull one other state in. Just pick up one other state so you can be doing a dual state because you're in California.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Great.
I have one last one, Joe. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm just giving a chance to people, otherwise I'll ask all the time.
Okay.
Where are we on the videos? If you could just let us know which videos should we watch from the page.
Well, let's go into it real quick. So we have 2 videos up right now. So we have week 1. You should have gone through that one. Week 2, which was last week. And then later today sometime, I'll have week 3 up.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
No, sorry. It's from your website.
The masterclass?
The lessons.
Okay.
Yes.
You can go through as many as you can go through to retain as much as you can retain. So whatever speed you want to go through, you can. Those videos, your first few are your core videos. And, just again, you can go through them at your leisure and just, pick as much up as you can. On week 1, though, some of this stuff you'll see a little bit of duplication on, but you'll see that we've maybe expanded a little bit more in here. But for example, video 1 where we go into Landglide, we don't really use Landglide anymore. We're using MapRight, for example, but the principles are all the same. When we're dealing with Landglide or MapRight, and if MapRight goes someday, I'm sure we go to another source, or we go, and all of these basically are the source from the tax rolls. So when I first started getting involved in this business, there weren't those things out there so readily available. And I went directly to the county and bought the tax roll. It cost me like $125 for my local tax roll. And I used that tax roll for 2 or 3 years before I bought another one. On land, they don't age very fast. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Hey, John.
Yes.
Question. When you're searching out an area, is it best to avoid where they already have street names and addresses, or is it better to kind of stick to the places where it's just parcel numbers? Is there any correlation between, where it's already platted out, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, if it hasn't been platted out, if it hasn't been developed, I'm looking for developed areas where somebody can build or they can park an RV on it. This is kind of my true criteria that I want to be buying in. And knowing that if I'm parking an RV there for a weekend, it could be in a flood zone. Sell plenty of those like that. But so you're buying cheap and you're selling cheap generally in those to make them move, because sometimes there's not a great demand for those. This is why I do like an area where people are buying, there's some serious buying going on there for, like a home type thing rather than an RV. But yeah, I buy for RV all the time. But again, you'll grow your business and you'll have all kinds of stuff that you're not doing when you start out.
But I see a lot of areas where it looks like a developer has bought, a large tract and they've already subdivided it. And then I see kind of like the, assessed value is like $5,000 per parcel and it has
Oh,
a
yeah.
street address. Is that something
I
that
usually avoid
doesn't?
those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Okay, that's
avoiding
what I
those.
thought. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always a reason for that. Usually it's incomplete. Guy went under who was trying to do that. Other issues came up, city issues, other zoning problems, and you'll not find it out until it's too late. So I'm not wasting my time on it. Any other questions today? Very good. We will then see you back next week. And in the meantime, hopefully you've got your mailing out. If you haven't got your mailing out, you may never get your mailing out. There's that, so in other words, you should be at that point where you're putting those steps together. Whether you've actually got it sent or not is beside the point. But if you've pulled your list, in other words, I'm really saying you should have your list pulled by now, or you may not pull your list. So you get too far behind, or you say I'm going to put it off because until this or to that, then you're going to get really behind, and there's a good chance that this is all for nothing. So you've got to get it. You got to get those steps done, and make sure that you're going at the same pace here with everybody else. Okay, very good. We'll see you back next week.
All right, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, John. Thank you.